Welcome to the Jerry Pitre Show, your go-to podcast for everything in the world of collectible cards and sports memorabilia. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, we dive deep into the stories, the history, and the trends shaping the market. From iconic rookie cards to rare sports artifacts, join us as we explore the fascinating intersection of sports and collecting. Let's dig into the treasures that tell the story of legends. Episode 8 featuring Rocket City Collector, JD. This right here
How's it
is the
going,
man, the
guys?
myth, the legend, uh, TCG extraordinaire. JD, give us a little bit about yourself.
So I got into Pokemon when I was a little kid, playing the game, going to Books a Million every Saturday, and got a little bit older, lost the passion. Right before COVID, picked up some Pokemon cards at the Nashville flea market, and ever since then, it's been full swing ahead.
Nice, man. Nice. So I actually met JD back in the day because I was selling stuff. I had picked up some Pokemon, and long and short, I think I met JD on like a Craigslist ad, right? Something like that. It was like Craigslist or Facebook.
It was definitely Craigslist because I was not using Facebook then for Pokemon. But yeah, we met in I think like the parking lot of Waffle House or Star Market.
Yeah. I think it was one of the two. So to kind of start out, I always like to ask people like, do you have a personal collection?
I do have a personal collection. What kind of collector are you if you don't have a PC? Yeah, I collect Entei and Ho-Oh mostly. And then I collect Mew and Mewtwo. And then I have odds and ends sports card and like rapper autographs.
Shout out. So like what's your like what's your most sentimental card? What's your most, whether that's like emotionally valuable kind of to you?
Uh, it's probably it's like a promo Entei card that you got with the movie. It's a reverse hollow, like really everyone's seen it. The Wizards of the Coast reverse hollow Entei Black Star promo. It's not a huge card, but that card is the most sentimental to me, and I have several copies of it. It's pretty cheap, and I just love it. So
That's awesome. So kind of like what criteria do you use when deciding to add something to the collection?
well, since I specifically like PC and Entei, I try to go after mostly Japanese tens, nines and tens. I do get English ones as well, but that's my main thing is like if it's a 9 or a 10 and a nice Japanese Entei or Ho-Oh card or a Mewtwo card, and if I can get it for a fair price, I will get it and put it in the PC. So usually that happens at a bigger card show. You know, you walk around, you find that card you want and wait till the end of the show and go back and hopefully it's there and you can get it for a good deal.
So one of the things that I thought was super interesting with JD is he's a big time vendor. JD, how many shows do you think you've vended this last year alone?
That's a good question. Probably like 30, I think. Maybe more, maybe a little bit less, but probably 30. I think I usually do 30 a year, just as a general number.
So since you like vend so much, like you've got like, do you have like a favorite kind of show to vend? Because I know personally that you do cons, you do kind of sports card shows. Like where do you fall as far as like, which one particularly pulls your heartstrings?
Honestly, the flip show is my favorite show to vend just because it's all locals and we've all kind of built it together. Shout out to Daniel who runs the flip show. I'm a big supporter of that show and I always will be. So that one definitely, probably, even though it's a smaller local show, it builds bigger and bigger every year, every show. That one's probably my favorite. And after that, second in line is going to be the Nashville show because, I'm originally from Nashville. That was home for me my entire life almost. And It's at the fairgrounds, which ironically is what got me back into Pokemon. You know, those fairgrounds, there's something special about them. So probably Nashville falls into second after the flip shows, really. They're both pretty sentimental.
Yeah, I always highly recommend any of the flip shows. If you know if you're listening to this and you're in the South, it's a great show, and I love the Nashville show too. I mean, honestly, that's if you could only go to one show a year, I always try to recommend people to go to the Nashville Fairground show, just because it's so big and it's like such like a good variety of stuff. You know, you've got everything from sports, non-sports, TCG, memorabilia. I mean, like I feel like as a person coming in, and so like this show is kind of aimed towards the novice. I feel like if you were coming in just to sell, it's a great place to sell. If you were coming in just to buy, it's a great place to buy. Plus, I really love Nashville, man. I mean, outside of the traffic, it's super clutch.
Yeah, I agree. The Nashville show is great for buying, great for selling, even trading. I've had some amazing trade-ins there. You know, not this last one, but the one before is when I got the Gold Star Gyarados and the Shining Gyarados. Like, I want to say last hour and a half of the show that walked up and we striked up like a really nice trade deal. And then, yeah, Nashville is pretty central to most locations in the South. So, like, if you're in Atlanta or Alabama or Mississippi, Georgia, or anywhere, you can travel to Nashville really easy, and that show's 3 days long. So it's always just fun to go out there, and after the show, go to Broadway, have some fun. So Nashville's a great show.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And Nashville's such a big city. I know a bunch of the guys that fly in from California. A lot of those guys, they just fly straight there, and you can go to the Nashville Fairground pretty. I mean, what do you think? 45 minutes from the airport, maybe a little less, depending on traffic. So I mean, it's not a central location, but regardless of where you're at in the nation, it's a great show. So, one of the things that I try to like instill here is actually doing your research. So like, what do you use to determine like a value of a card? Like, do you have any specific tools? Do you have any like methods? Like, what are you doing?
I only use price charting. I'm just kidding. I use TCG Player and, of course, Alt for slabs. If it's PSA, BGS, I think even Alt does CGC now. So Alt for slabs, TCG Player for raw Pokemon, and even Japanese now is on TCG Player, so you can use it for your Japanese Pokemon as well. And if you really got to like get down to it, 130 point, those three. That's all I really use. I wouldn't use anything else.
Now, I will say, so I like using price charting, but strictly really just for video games. Outside of that, I love the TCG Player setup because I can screenshot a list of kind of what I have. I can send it to a buddy, and it's way easier to work a deal out. Now, me personally, my only big issue with TCG Player is the little scanning part. It just never works for me. I always just have to do the manual input. JD, do you ever get the scanner to work, or you just manually input?
The scanner is so hard to get to work. I agree. And I manually input. I sit on my computer, and it's easier to just type it in if you're sitting on your computer and just go through all the cards. You can do it on your phone if you need to on the fly, like pull up your browser and pull up the website, and it's still sometimes easier to scan them in. That is one of the flaws of the app, I will say. But once you get good at like typing in the card and just searching it real quick, it's not a hard thing to do. You just comp them out pretty quick.
Yeah, and I use Alt as well for the graded stuff because I feel like the graded stuff, especially in the world of Pokemon, it really is the difference maker. I mean, if you've got anything in a 10, generally it's so much more than in the raw. And Alt's so easy because you can just take a picture and it just kind of shows you, right what your prices are, and it gives you a good read on the market. So what kind of like trends do you see currently with the Pokemon market?
Right now, one I can speak on is 151. It is a huge wave. The prices are increasing pretty fast. You can look at the Charizard, the Blastoise, any of the big cards even the smaller cards, really. 151 in general is just going up. Sealed products going up. They did talk about, a big reprint coming. So we'll see how that affects it. But that's one of the main things. Another is right now is, the Team Rocket set that's coming out next year, and this set that's going to have like a trainers type Pokemon in it. Those are, everyone's talking about those right now. So those are really the trends going on in Pokemon. Japanese, the market's not like it used to be with it. English is going really strong. I will say another trend I'm seeing right now, like it shows and talking to other like store owners and vendors and stuff like that. Everyone's looking for vintage Pokemon again, even if it's basic WotC stuff, original first edition stuff, unlimited, whatever it is. WotC vintage is pretty sought after again. And I do believe that is because of the Pokemon 151 set. I think it brought a lot of people back into the hobby. So vintage is also on a wave again.
Now for those people who don't know, what is WotC?
WotC stands for, is an acronym, WOTC. That, I don't know anyone who's ever just came out and been like, dude, it's an acronym, but it stands for Wizards of the Coast. And so if you ever hear WotC, that's what people are talking about.
What makes that significant, though?
So basically, Wizards of the Coast, they used to print Pokemon. They were the English set, when they came to America and they wanted a company to print the cards, Wizards of the Coast was doing Magic the Gathering already. So they wanted a company to print their cards in English. So they went with Wizards of the Coast, and they printed Pokemon cards from, I don't know if this is the exact years or not, but like maybe 1997 till 2001, maybe. And that's might not be exact. I'm just kind of going off, what I kind of remember. But for a few short years, WotC was the people, or sorry, Wizards of the Coast was the people who printed Pokemon cards in the beginning.
Yeah, I often see people kind of like not know what the difference is, and like I think you're right on when they ended, somewhere in that era. But after they kind of fell off, it's like, I don't want to say the quality was lesser, but it's like I felt like, the Wizards of the Coast, first off, that was like my childhood. So like all the nostalgic vibes, all the stuff that it's like, man, when I was a kid, I always wanted this. It was all Wizards of the Coast stuff. I mean, I wouldn't mind a Moonbreon or like a pretend grunt Pikachu, the ninja one, something like that. But yeah, for the most part, I love the Wizards of the Coast stuff. So
yeah,
since you're so
sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, arguably, some of the best sets ever from Pokemon are Wizards of the Coast sets, like Legendary Collection being one of them. Everybody wants that reverse holo Charizard from Legendary Collection. And then, first edition cards from Wizards of the Coast. You can't go wrong with those. So you really judge the Pokemon hobby, and some might disagree with this, but Shadowless first edition Charizard is basically what you can judge the whole Pokemon market on. If Shadowless Charizard first edition's doing bad, then we're probably all doing bad. If it's doing really good, then Pokemon is doing really good.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that statement. And I often see guys that are like, man, what's the difference on unlimited, shadowless, and first edition? And after you explain it to them, they're like, oh man, because the first edition stuff was so, at least when I was a kid, I saw 2 or 3, like shout out to the Deep. It was a it's a comic book store that's still up and running today. But when I was a child, it was significantly smaller. But that was the first time I ever saw like a first edition Charizard, and I was like, oh my God, one day I'm going to own one of these. But yeah, I would totally agree that that's a really good telltale sign kind of on how the Pokemon market is doing. So since you're so heavy into Pokemon, do you do any grading? And if so, what companies do you use?
Yes, I definitely grade cards. Speaking of that, I need to enter another 50 card submission to PSA. I mainly use PSA for grading. Whether you're collecting, reselling, investing, I'm no expert, but PSA has the fastest and best resale value. Unless you hit a BGS Black Label or Beckett Black Label, PSA is going to be your best bet for grading. They send out specials every month for Pokemon and sports cards. They're pretty consistent when it comes to grading. Just there's consistent, if not more than every other grading company, and I will say that. And I do think their slabs are like industry standard. So I would go with PSA if I had to recommend a grading company to anybody. If you want like really pretty looking slabs, that have a fast turnaround time and it's not expensive to grade with them, I would look at Tag Grading. They are relatively new. Sorry, dropped my earbud and I'm getting a dog here in my lap. Get down, buddy. Sorry. Grading though, I would go with them if you're looking at something that's like you want to keep for your PC. They have really pretty slabs and they're pretty cheap to grade with, and their turnaround time is great. And then if I had to choose a third, I guess BGS.
Yeah, I love the BGS slabs. I mean, as a collector personally, I think they look great. But kind of referencing what JD was saying, like just if you're looking at value alone, unless you get a BGS Black Label 10, it's just better to have a PSA 10, honestly. Now, kind of on that subject, something that's recent and new is GameStop has come out to say that they are doing grading with PSA. How do you think, like, what's your thoughts and opinion on that?
I do like GameStop. I've always loved GameStop growing up going there, and I still do like GameStop. I personally would not use them to send my graded cards or to send cards out to get graded. I don't know if that's because I do it myself or you can, go to certain shops and they can do it for you. I would trust them to just handle your cards more than GameStop would, because at GameStop, they're not trained to handle cards to be shipped out for grading, especially like a high-end card. You want to know when you send that high-end card, you put insurance on it. It's going straight from you to the grading company, and that's guaranteed unless something happens in the mail, which totally could. But your better bet is doing it yourself or going to like your local shop and having them do it. But yeah, besides that, I love GameStop, but I wouldn't send my cards out with them.
So, I agree with you. I totally have mixed feelings on GameStop coming into the industry. On one hand, I totally agree with you. Like, I got a PlayStation 5 through the mail through them, and literally it had like one side with like, bubble wrap and nothing else. And I'm literally like, bro, this is a PlayStation 5. Could we bubble wrap this whole thing like maybe once or twice? So I totally agree with you on them not necessarily being experts in handling cards. But the one thing I think really has a lot of sex appeal to me is it brings awareness to the brand to mom, right? Because, your mom's going to take you in to, get a video game, get a pack of Pokemon cards, something along that line. And I think that brings awareness to the brand as PSA. I mean, kind of like not everybody owns a Rolex, but pretty much everybody knows what a Rolex is. And I think as far as in the world of collectible cards, if you've got the PSA 10 Moonbreon, first edition Charizards, you've got, top tier. So I do appreciate that it brings awareness, but yeah, I don't know. Every time that I've sent to PSA myself, generally I'll do a big order and I literally overnight it straight from my place to California. Like no stops in between, straight to you, no funny business. So I totally agree with the sentiment. What about if I wanted to take a chance on tag? What kind of price, like, should I send my first edition Charizard to tag, or what kind of price range should you shoot for tag grading?
With tag grading, like I said, they're like a newer company, so um, that's really up to you. Now, you could send. They've graded first ed Zards, they've graded those Moonbreons. They have all that right now in their catalog, and they continue to grade that stuff every day, and it pops up. And the market's really strong on them, but they're just not to the point yet where the resale value is there. And if you care about the resale value, that's not the company you would want to go with right yet. Not saying that's not for the future right now, but I am saying that, like, if you want your personal cards graded, or you just want a beautiful looking slab that is very accurately graded, go with tag. And I would say, realistically, if you want to look at price points to submit cards to them on what you think you want, that really depends on what you collect. If you collect, like art rares or full art trainers, or stuff like that, then sure, why not send it to them. But if you collect maybe Poncho Pikachus or trophy cards or stuff like that, I wouldn't say send it to them right yet. Let them keep bubbling, let them build up a little bit. Everybody needs time to cook, and right now I'd say they're cooking.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, do you own any tag slabs personally right now for like personal collection stuff or stuff to flip? Like, how are you making that kind of play with tag grading?
Yeah, I mean, the last Nashville show, I sold out of every tag slab I had. So I definitely, I do have some in my PC, and I have some that I flip as well. Right now, I do have a few that both. So yes, the answer is yes. I bring those to shows. I'm an advocate of that brand as well as PSA. So yep.
Now, kind of still on the whole grading thing, what's your thoughts on CGC as far as Pokemon
Uh,
grading?
okay. So I was gonna say, yeah, they're great for comics. CGC, and they're just hard to sell. That's all I have to say. They're hard to sell at shows. Unless you have like a crazy card and it's a great CGC grade, they're just harder to move. And that's why I just kind of steer clear of them. They're not fully established yet. They're still building. But typically, whenever you have CGC slabs, they just don't move as fast. So I try to stay away from them.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, since you're into Pokemon, are you actively playing the game? Are you just a collector? Like, where do you fall?
Yes, I collect and I play. I just played at the Surging Sparks pre-release at Poke Collect, and I got slapped down bad. But I do play online as well. So if you ever want to play me, you can catch me on there. And I play the Charizard deck if anybody wants to know.
Awesome. Awesome. So, one of the things that I think is more interesting with Pokemon than sports is the actual gameplay mechanics. And it's very interesting to see the meta kind of change out, and then it feels like cards that normally you pull a trainer card, something like that, and you're like, man, this is only $2-3, but then like the gameplay mechanics change, and some of those cards jump up pretty fast. Like what's the it's like one of the pink cards out of the newer sets. I know it does super well. I think it's like Super Scoop or something like that, or
No, it's called Prime Catcher. You're talking about Prime Catcher. And that card is pretty nice for your deck. I don't play it personally in mine, but yeah, I will say that card's about to go down in value a lot, though, because next month they released the Charizard theme deck. and that is the main. So that card is called an ace spec, and for a while they took ace specs out of the TCG, but now they're back, and you can only have one per deck. So right now you could only pull the prime catcher from packs, but when that Charizard theme deck comes out, you'll be able to get it from that. So that card is going to drop in price. It will still be playable, but it's going to drop in price.
So shout out anybody, if you've got that right now and you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and list it up. So how do you sell? Like, what marketplaces are you on actively to sell?
I do TCG Player, and I do eBay, and I do Facebook Marketplace, but my main part of selling is Instagram. I do claim sales almost weekly for Pokemon cards, and that is definitely like my bread and butter is the claim sales on Instagram.
So kind of run us through TCG Player. I know I've had guys reach out to me interested in selling on there. Like, what do you like? What do you not like? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? You know, because I think you've done like thousands of sales on there, right? I mean, you've done numbers.
I've done a lot of sales on TCG Player. I don't know the exact number, but it is a lot. And across every platform, I've done more than thousands of sales. It's insane. But TCG Player, so here's the best part about it. You can sell any of your TCG cards on there, whether it's Pokemon, One Piece, Dragon Ball Super, Yu-Gi-Oh, Lorcana, like literally the list goes on. For Pokemon on there, the pros and cons are pros, you can sell it really easy. You can list as much as you want as soon as you get to a certain tier, and to get to that tier, it's not very hard. You don't have to take. Oh, the biggest pro is you don't have to take a picture of your card that you're listing on TCG Player. You basically just type it in, and it pulls up every version of that card that it is, and you just click it and say, "Hey, I have this many." And then the other thing is you want the con of it is you usually want to sell at the lowest market price, because that's what moves them faster. Because there's always going to be somebody undercutting you on there. So selling them at lowest market price with low shipping is the best way to do it. But that is the cons of TCG Player are the fees and the shipping. So really, besides that, if you can get past that and really make it work for you, it is like so great to sell TCGs on. And they, like I said earlier, they just started taking in Japanese. So now you can do your Japanese Pokemon on there as well.
Okay, so what are your costs to ship on there? Like, is there a certain price range of stuff that you would sell on there, wouldn't sell on there? Kind of. That's the question that I get often is, you know, and I've not sold anything on TCG, so you know, I'm kind of learning with the audience as well.
I wouldn't list any like high-end vintage on there. I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't list any like high-end Japanese stuff on there, I guess, yet, since they just integrated with the Japanese Pokemon market. What I do recommend to list is like any of the big modern hits. I would go ahead and put those up on there. Any of your all arts, playables, those are great for TCG Player. Your bulk is the go-to spot for TCG Player. You don't get paid immediately, but if you can wait a little bit and list up like several hundred bulk cards, you will eventually start making money off of it, as long as you're getting them for a fair enough price. Because like I said, the fees and shipping and stuff, you got to account for that. But it's really good for like low to mid end, I guess you'd say. Any high end, you really want to like stick to selling at shows or eBay, or, you know, like personal deals, stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. So say I sell a $3 card on there. Are you able to use the 69 cent plain white envelope shipping? Do you have to use a bubble mailer? How does that work?
Oh, absolutely. They have PWE, plain white envelope. You don't even print your label on there. You know, you can just literally, if you want to make it very simple, you can write the address and stuff on a plain white envelope and just put the card in it and put a stamp on it. And that's as easy it is to ship out on TCG Player for, a plain white envelope card.
That's sick. That's sick. So, since you're so TCG heavy, are there any other TCGs that you do, or are you just strictly Pokemon?
I mainly stick to Pokemon, but I branch out. Sometimes if somebody brings me a nice One Piece card, I will buy it to resell it. I don't technically collect One Piece or other TCGs. I do have some random stuff in my PC, but it's not my go-to for my collection. I will say right now, Union Arena is a newer TCG that's on the rise. So if I was to get into something else, that's what it would probably be right now.
So, you mentioned earlier that you play. Do you just play Pokemon? Do you have anything else as far as card games that you play actively?
Not really. I play disc golf every now and then, but that's about it.
That's fair. That's fair. Um, so you mentioned that you've got a few random kind of other things in your collection. Like what all do you have? You said something about you've got wrapper cards, you've got some other sports. What are your interests as far
Yeah.
as that kind of stuff goes?
So like for the wrapper cards, I have like some autographs from like Bun B, and then like that Ja Morant card with Young Dolph in the back of it. That's like one of the sports cards I got. I got an Undertaker card from wrestling that I just got a PSA 10 on. Let's see, stuff. I don't know. I have some random UFC cards from people that I collect, like Sugar Sean. I do sometimes buy UFC cards. I forgot to mention that. I'm into UFC and I like watching it. And if somebody comes up to the booth with UFC cards, I always try to take a look at them. And if I see something I like, I'll get it. So yeah, stuff like that. I do have some other autograph cards, Dragon Ball Z cards. I guess I like collecting autographs as well. Because now that I think about it, most of the stuff that I have is autographs. So yeah, just autograph of people that I like, I guess.
So it's like, what's some of your more interesting autographs that you have?
Ooh.
Because I know one
So
you have
like,
that I'm thinking of that's signed on a Pokemon card.
I mean, definitely Arita. I have Arita autographs.
I was thinking about your Chuck
But
Norris
one of
one.
my, oh yeah, oh yeah, I do have Chuck Norris signed on the Hitmonlee as well. It's hard to think because now that I think I have so many autographs, that's why I was just like, man. But I will say one of the coolest autographs I have personally is from Kane the wrestler, and it was the year he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I got it signed that year. And it's in like a red paint pen on the Kane card, and it just looks so cool, and it was so cool meeting him. So that's a really cool one. And then I have this one's really cool as well. It's a Dragon Ball Super card signed by Chris Sabat, who is the voice actor of Vegeta, Shenron, Piccolo. He's the voice actor of a lot of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super characters. But I got him to sign it, and it looks like that it came on the card that way. Like that's how it came out of the pack, but it's not. He signed it on there, and that one's really nice too.
That's super sick. That's super sick. Yeah, I know that you've had over the years just tons of cool autographs that I was like, dude, that's so sick. Didn't you have the voice actor of Goku as well at one point?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of his autographs still. Sean Shamel, he is like one of the most goated voice actors, and I always make it a point to like get anything signed by him no matter what. So yeah, I have several of his.
Now, do you do any other kind of collectibles? Are you only cards? Do you do like, I for our audio listeners in JD's background, he's got a couple of Funko Pops. I think you've got a couple of those autographed as well, right?
Yeah, so all those Funko Pops back there, those are autographed. I'm a big anime nerd, so those are all from like different animes that I like. I collect certain plushies. I got Squishmallow up there, but in the background, so everything almost up there on that shelf is autographed. One of those, I dropped my earbud again. One of those is a autographed COVID mask that is signed by Rob Schneider, which is pretty cool thing to have. Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, I got that one signed up there. So all that stuff is autographed. So yeah, I dabble in a lot of things. I also collect gold and silver, just all kinds of random stuff. I've always been a collector of many things. I collect crystals and gemstones. I just like an eclectic mixture of stuff, There's not, if I'm at like a yard sale or something and I see something I like, I'll just take it and bring it home.
No, that's totally fair. I'm a yard sale guy myself. Like, it doesn't matter if I've got something to do. If I'm driving and I see one, I'm probably stopping. It might be a quick lap or two, but I'm always stopping. So, what do you know? Obviously, nobody can tell the future. How do you anticipate the market for cards in the next 5 years? I mean, are we doom and gloom? Things good? Like, where do you fall?
If the world doesn't end before 5 years from now, I think the Pokemon card market's going to be really good. Sports cards, I think as long as we keep like pumping out freak players and they just keep like making records and stuff like that, I think sports cards can stay pretty strong as well. Besides that, though, I couldn't see too many other card hobbies going 5 years from now. Sports and Pokemon for sure. Magic the Gathering for sure. It just really depends where we are altogether, really. But I do think that the market right now is trending upwards, and I think it will continue to trend up as long as card shows keep happening. More, like you said earlier, GameStop with PSA that's putting awareness out there. The video games that are coming out, whether it's a Pokemon game or a football game or anything like that, I think as long as that keeps going, the card market and hobby will stay strong.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I see so many YouTubers, and it's really, I think, just the shock value, and they're just shooting for followers and views. But oh my God, the market's gonna crash. It's all ending, and it's like, you know, I feel like obviously things go up, things go down, but overall, every time I go to a show, I mean, it feels as if I see more kids, I see more mom and dads walking around. I mean, it doesn't feel as if it's dying, at least from, an outsider looking in.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's dying. I could tell you the orders at the shop that I do every day, it is insane. And that right there just makes me keep faith in it. It's seeing all these orders go out and going to the card shows and seeing all these people at the card shows. It's insane. So yeah, I think it's only going to grow.
And that was one of the other things that I thought would be a really interesting conversation with JD, because you are also working at Poke Collect right now as well, right?
Yes, I am. Shout out to Poke Collect, and very thankful to be working there. It's a great team, and yeah, it's awesome being there. It just like I get to do Pokemon when I want to do it, and then I get to go to a shop and do it. It's like really awesome.
And for anybody who's not, local to the South, check out Poke Collect's Whatnot. Like, literally, y'all have streams, and it's like thousands of watchers actively live in these shows. And I mean, it's hustling and bustling. Good luck on getting a deal, because man, there's 800 other plus people watching at the same time. I mean, it's super entertaining.
Yeah, they are definitely Poke Collect's like probably the biggest Pokemon streamer on Whatnot. But they, that comes with hard work, putting the grind in. There's multiple streamers that we call him Boss Man. Multiple streamers that Boss Man has. It's like really about picking a good solid team. I can't give you guys all the details, but like behind the scenes, when the people aren't streaming, they are packing orders, getting everybody's stuff, trying to get it out on time, constantly looking for cards, and doing the whole storefront on top of it. It's a lot that goes into it. And like, yes, they do get the viewers and stuff, but like, it's because they built that community. It's very, very much earned from all that hard work. So and that's what I have to say to anybody. You build that community and you put in the hard work, and people will come. It'll happen no matter what.
So, one of the things that I really love about Pokemon is, it seems like every other day a new, athlete, somebody comes out and they've got, a Pokemon jersey on, or they come out and go, oh yeah, I'm just here to play football and I'm going to go home and play Pokemon after this. And, I think that's one of the things that is super interesting with Pokemon, because there's a lot of people that, you don't even think of. And you got these big muscly dudes that bench 225, warm up, go play a game of football. And they're like, yeah, I'm just really waiting to go home and go play Pokemon.
Yeah. So I think it's really awesome. You see these like sports players coming out wearing a Pokemon shirt, or you see a UFC fighter wearing a Naruto headband. I think that back in the day, people made fun of Pokemon or anime specifically. Some of the best UFC fighters are coming out wearing Naruto headbands. Pokemon is on people's t-shirts. People aren't scared to show that they love anime or they love collecting cards. Nostalgia. Anything nostalgic is the biggest seller right now, especially 90s stuff. So yeah, people are going to throw on their Dragon Ball Z t-shirts or their Inuyasha t-shirts, and they're going to wear them proudly now, because that's kind of what's going on right now. It's trending in a way. It's weird to say it, but it is trending right now. 90s nostalgia is just super huge.
No, I totally agree. And one of the things that I thought was super interesting is so many Naruto references in the last Olympics that we had. You'd have these guys or girls come out and they would make an anime reference, Naruto, whatever. And it's like, if you know, and if not, you're like, oh, what is that guy doing? And it's like, this is a reference to One Piece or whatever. It's super cool.
Yeah, One Piece is huge right now too. That's another one I forgot to throw out there. Like, you go anywhere, you will see somebody wearing One Piece merchandise, like, for sure, or Naruto. But yeah, it's crazy.
And one of the things that I like with anime is, it's not just one particular race, one particular gender. Like, it's, every gender, all the people. It's just something that brings, like a unity kind of to the community. It's like, I've seen women that are just extremely gorgeous, and then they've got, like you said, like an Inuyasha shirt or something like that on, and you're like, man, back in the day, like, everybody called me a nerd for watching this stuff, and you're like, oh my God, it's super interesting. I mean, it's super interesting.
Yeah, I literally got made fun of for watching Inuyasha back in the day, so I feel that.
No, I mean, I had the childhood where, I got off of school, I would go home, and then it would be Sailor Moon, and then it would be Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Zoids, like all the cool anime stuff. And it was really weird, because it was just like a little tight-knit group back in the day, but then you get older and it's like, more people come out that they watch that than a little bit. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I kind of thought I was alone in this own little bubble. But so kind of going, how do you balance collecting cards as a personal investment or like kind of for personal enjoyment? Like, how do you navigate that?
Right now, so since I do run a business, I really do have to collect for investment purposes. I guess so. Right now, when I'm buying cards, I'm not looking to keep for myself. I'm looking for what I can turn around. Typically, the fastest. I don't like sitting on cards. That's how you can really like burn yourself, is sitting on stuff for too long or not immediately moving it. The market could shift. You never know when it's going to shift. Um, I will say the card market is very much like stocks. It goes up and down. Um, it's a healthy market when it's going up and down, though. If it's just always going down, that's bad. If it's just going up, that's bad too. Um, if it's just constantly going up, that means it could be artificially pumped. If it's just going down, it's just like, it's going down. But when you see cards, moving on that chart up and down, that's really good to see. Um, when I come to like personal collection, that's more of like a treat myself thing. When I feel like I've earned it, I don't typically, unless I'm trading up, like if I have a 9 and I'll typically trade, go find a vendor that has the 10 I want and add my 9 with other cards to trade up to that, give them the value they want for that card that I want. But it's got to be like I earned it. I'm not going to go spend money on a personal card if I don't have the money. Yeah, so right now, I only buy for myself for my personal collection if I feel like I've earned it. I try to not spend money on myself because I do run a business. It needs to be put back into the business. Unless I have a card that I'm trying to like trade up. Say I have a 9 and I want a 10, I will bring that 9. When I say 9, like a graded card and a 9, to a card show and search for someone that has that same card and a 10. And I will strike a trade with them where I trade them my 9 plus some other stuff that equals the value of their 10. And then I'll put that in my PC. But other than that, right now it's all business. So I'm only buying to sell, and I don't buy to sit on anything for too long. I typically try to buy stuff that I can immediately turn around and get my investment back, because you don't know when a card might crash or something like that.
That's fair. That's fair. And I kind of am at the same point where I have people who hit me up all the time and they're trying to sell $100 card and they're like, okay, well, you want to give me $100 for it? And I'm like, look, man, I can't do that. I'm buying it to sell it, to make a percentage and kind of keep putting back in the business. So I totally get that. So since you've been in the hobby for so long, kind of like what's some things that you could see that people could do better to have a more enjoyable experience?
At card shows, I noticed this is something that will literally change your entire life at a card show. Greet people when they come up to your table. And even if you're just like, hey, how are you? To your patrons, that will catapult you into a new world of things that you didn't see. Having good customer service is everything. And just being consistent. And when people ask you questions, answer those questions. Try to be as helpful as possible. There's a lot of trade secrets, but like sharing some of those secrets with people really helps, go along. You make a lot of friends that way. You learn a lot of stuff that way as well. I've learned a lot, even from you, you know what I mean? Through the hobby, certain things, just talking to people and networking. A lot of people just don't do that. And they're so focused on themselves that it's like, maybe if you ask someone else a few questions, you might learn something. So I think a lot of people should do that. And let's see, don't get too focused. Stay in your own lane, basically, is what I'm going to say. Don't try to get in certain niches. Like if you do Japanese Pokemon, stick with that. Don't try to stray into something else unless you learn it a lot, and take it one step at a time. Like you don't want to start in Pokemon and then immediately move to high end or immediately move to certain genres and these type of collectibles. Try to stay in your lane, and if you want to branch out, just study it a lot.
Yeah, to start out with, I would totally agree with if you're a vendor, greeting people, kindness, like you said, that's going to catapult you towards success because I can't tell you how many times I've walked up to a table with a pocket full of money and I'm looking to purchase, and you get some kind of rude, ugh, and you're like, whoa, bro. I mean, it's like 10 in the morning. What's wrong? Like, I'm over here trying to give you cash. And you know, I'm 100% on the a lot of people, it's as if they don't want to talk about successes they've had, trade secrets. Well, like, I feel like a lot of people in this industry are like, oh my God, if JD's over here eating, I don't have, food to eat. And like, versus I have the mentality of, you know, if like we're all set up at a table, I've got a table here, JD's got a table here. Well, if I don't have something, I'm going to point them to JD and go, hey, I might not have the Pokemon cards you're looking for. This guy right here definitely will. Just because it's like, I know that when somebody goes to JD's table and goes, oh, hey, I'm looking for football, basketball, baseball, he's going to do the same thing and shoot them my way. And it's like, if you're helping out your homies, it's going to come back to you 100%.
Yeah, we'll be at the card shows all the time, and if of course if I don't have something, I pretty much know anybody that sells anything at these card shows, and I will send them to that person. And anybody can attest for that at these card shows. I have helped people sell so many cards, and that is one thing that I like to do, and I'm proud to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Now, kind of on the inverse, what are some things that you see people are doing like the right way? And because the whole idea with this show is we're kind of teaching the novice like how to scale up, be a better collector, investor, flipper, whatever. What's some things you see that people are doing right?
I think that promoting yourself is very important and branding. And I see a lot of people at these card shows that have really nice logos. They show up to every card show. They put in their due diligence and they put in the time and effort, and that really shows. Even with like content videos you see, you can tell when people put the time in, and you can tell when people don't. And when you do, you're going to get more viewers, more eyes on your product. Whatever you're trying to do, you're just going to get more eyes on it. And that can go with card shows, online, anywhere you're trying to do it. It basically will help you a lot. And something else I've seen that people do right is price your stuff according to market. You don't want to overprice it and scare people off. A lot of people will overprice their stuff, and it just kind of scares off new buyers that don't know. Um, and just keep your stuff pretty accurate to market pricing. That's one of the best things I think somebody could do. And then basically stay transparent. Anybody I've talked to that has just been like, hey, this card is in this condition, and then when I got it, it is, or like, hey, I might be 2 days late shipping this card, but it's going to be to you with tracking, stuff like that. Just be as transparent as possible with people, and that's like one of the absolute best things you can do.
Yeah, I would definitely say transparency is key. I mean, and this is one of the things that I actually learned from JD is he would he circles like on the penny sleeve of the card, like, oh, hey, crease here, big scratch, something like that. And going back to that transparency, it's like, oh, it's real easy to go, oh man, this looks really good, and you flip it over and you go, oh, this does look really good, but there is a crease here or whatever. And I totally agree. I think that transparency is a great thing, honestly. Now, I've got kind of a controversial question for you here. Since you are a vendor, do you think stickers on top or bottom, or no stickers for price at all?
If you're vending, you need to have stickers on you need to have price stickers on all your stuff. And then I think you should put the price stickers on the top right hand side. I don't know why, but that's just like where I specifically have always put mine, and it looks the best. Like, you can stack the cards up in your case, and have them lined up and see each price sticker. But no matter what, you want your stuff priced, because when people come up, they don't not everybody is going to be willing to ask you a price. Not everybody even likes talking to people, so you can't rely on them to just know the price off the top of their head, especially if they're new or anything like that. So it's definitely good to have everything priced.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, me personally, I'm only a one table vendor. I don't have enough inventory to, warrant having 2-3 tables. So I've got a small enough amount of inventory that I, price pretty much everything, if not 98% of everything out. And I know some people are like, oh, price tags are useless, but I'm very much a sticker on top. And I'm probably going to steal that, hit it on one side so it looks all nice and pretty. So what's your next show that you're vending?
I think it's the Flip Show. Gardendale, maybe? I want to say the Flip Gardendale or the Flip Chattanooga, one of those two. It's definitely in the next Flip Show. I think for the rest of the year, it's going to be mainly flip shows. There's some odds and ends tucked in there that are like kind of up in the air. But next year, we'll be hitting like the big show circuits again. This year, the rest of the year, I'm basically taking it easy. You know what I mean? Mostly local stuff.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, shout out, kind of, where can we find you on the internet?
Definitely Instagram, Rocket City Collector on Instagram. YouTube as well, Rocket City Collector JD on there. TikTok, Rocket City Collector. Pretty much anywhere, if you just type in Rocket City Collector, I have the platform. Mainly Instagram, but definitely could use some subscribers and followers on those other platforms. But yeah, just Google Rocket City Collector and stuff should pop up.
Well, JD, I appreciate you for taking the time out, man. I mean, honestly, I felt like you've got a great perspective on the hobby. You've got an interesting collection as far as everything from autographs to Pokemon, UFC, wrapper cards. So, I just thought it would be a great conversation.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me, man. Glad I could finally make it on here. Had a little few hiccups in between, but I think it went really smooth, and I'm always happy to talk about the hobby or any of those type of questions that people have to ask. I'm always willing to help, so it's always definitely welcomed.
Yeah, so if anybody here has Pokemon questions, hit the homie up. He's got the answers 100%. So everybody remember, this is the Jerry Pitre Show, your go-to podcast for everything in the world of collectible cards and memorabilia. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Go follow the homie. We out here. Peace.
Bye.